Well, I think if you have an audience, you have the energy.
Are people
that's
just
in the
watching me
room.
sit here?
Debated many times. There's a lot of energy. You feed off the energy. I think Sherry would acknowledge that, or maybe agree. And it just gives a vibrancy to the
Welcome to the Jamby show.
to the debate. On the other hand,
I'm
when
Ron
you're
Burgundy.
in a room with a couple of moderators and you're not playing to the audience, you have to
well, it's a little
maybe
different.
behave yourself a little bit more. And I think it's correct.
I have no
to say
idea what's
we're
happening
going to watch
right
very
now.
early how these two people face off, especially with two moderators and these other rules around the microphone.
Yeah,
and that sort
it's
of thing.
different
But,
from like the show.
There's pluses and minuses. You go back and I do a lot of
New
work with history, and you go back to that Kennedy Nixon debate, first time on television, and Nixon is sweating profusely, and the hot lights are bothering him, and Kennedy cool as a cucumber. It made a big difference because if you go back and look, people who were polled after that debate.
Yeah, it's weird. It's the first TV I've
debate,
ever known
Nixon
to have a screensaver.
If you polled him on the television debate, Kennedy won it. Yeah. So these are all interesting.
Do you ever hear my projector?
We've got to go. Well, speaking of sidebars,
it's not the projector. It is a projector, but with the DVD player that I bought.
A lot of questions are swirling in the political atmosphere as well tonight.
Or eject.
Who will
it
yells
Donald
it
through the
projector, running mate.
And it's horrible. It screams like, play!
Question. He's doing his own counter-programming event
play.
tonight. It seems like the
Christy
Trump and Biden
kept hitting the fucking
have neutralized
volume
the
button and
third-party threat,
bah,
at least for one night here. But we got to leave it at that. We got to go.
I was trying to sleep, and all I heard was a screaming fucking projector at me. I'm like, stop it.
All right, in the meantime here, we do want to take yet another quick commercial break. Remember, we still have our live picture there inside.
Jamby Vision, brought to you by Milo's
the spin
Tea.
Room. We're going to be going through some
It may kill me in the end, but boy, is it delicious.
Are preparing. We are just about 12 minutes away from the first presidential debate. We'll see you in 2 minutes.
On. Welcome to This is why it's live. Welcome to Jamby Vision. I'm your host. I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'll be here with you watching this debate. It should be spectacular. A Jim Dandy, I would say. A Jim Dandy. Words that my son hasn't heard but gets annoyed by hearing. Like Rolodex. And via satellite. Hey, we're kind of via satellite right now, folks. Minus the satellite part and the via. Got my trusty dog here. New shirt. I'm all ready for the debate. Like a retarded gymnast. I have no idea what that means. Milo's. Oh, let's see who's chiming in. Oh. Bad timing. That was Uncle Dave. No, the realtor sold us the house, yeah. Ain't done no thinking, landlords.
And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. Thanks so much for joining us for some of this pre-debate coverage.
I think you're
analysis.
on the.
Hope you found it informative here. We're not done yet. We got about 10 minutes
Who
until
the
the debate
hell
starts.
is Andrew
We're going
Kraft?
back out live, though,
Andrew Kraft?
to Atlanta, my friend.
Who's his brother?
Scarpino,
Dookie?
standing by there with a pulse of the city on this major political night. She joins me. Madison, good to see you here. I know you've covered politics a lot this year. What's in store tonight?
Hey, Andrew, well, this Stage is set here in Atlanta for one of the rare debates in U.S. history between a sitting president and a former president.
They should do a dance-off. I believe a dance-off would be way better than a debate.
4 years after their last debate, President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump are facing off again in the crucial battleground state of Georgia. The historic showdown will likely see the candidates weigh in on the economy, immigration, and
well,
abortion.
Bob, I'm looking at this debate and I'm saying to myself, I got 10 points for appearance for
President Trump is going to lay out his vision for the next 4 years of
better-looking cat
and really talk about a contrast
raisined out,
between
pale-ass Biden. Biden looks like the father of Powder. Remember the movie Powder?
The former president has been on the road with recent
he could be
events
Powder's
in
father,
Philadelphia,
Mr. Powder.
and New Orleans, while the president has spent much of the last week preparing
Trump's
for the
orange
debate
hair
at
is
Camp
now
David.
more of
The
a
Biden
whitish
campaign
blonde,
says the
which
president's record will
I like
speak
it.
for itself.
Looks better on him. Looks better on him.
Himself, who's fighting
But,
for the American people,
like I
day,
said, folks, we're not going to get a real debate where they can just speak freely. They're going to just be dick whacked through the whole thing. Well, Trump will. Biden will be
Fox News poll
led
shows
along
voters
as
will
he
be
always
paying
is.
attention tonight, with more than half saying the debate will be extremely or very important to their vote.
I really just want to hear their plan on how
all Biden's
going to
do is
secure our country,
January
secure our borders, keep
6th,
us safe.
insurrectionist Hitler guy. Man, that's all.
I lost programming.
Oh, we lost everything.
All right, Madison, do you have us here? No?
Uh-oh.
Right, unfortunately,
they've been bombed.
Like we did lose Madison Scarpino there live for us in Atlanta.
The debate.
Great reporting, as always.
Debate's been bombed.
That's what happens sometimes.
He just
broke everything is live.
Broke the airways.
During these
we're never going to see it because
here. Let's go over some of the live looks that we have inside of the spin room there. You can see it's kind of cleared out because people are gearing up to go.
Oh,
to
yeah.
the Media Filing Center for so many of the journalists who have descended on Atlanta for this major event there. Also, we're getting some tweets in. Let's go to these. So
don't say
Joe
bomb.
Biden there. You can see he says, I don't know what they've got in
like
these
in the
performance enhancers.
I was in the Air Force and I was a bombardier.
Try it yourselves, folks. He says, see you
Either
in a
way,
bit.
I get you.
Joe.link.
Let's not offend the people.
Sauce. So the Biden camp is clearly tongue-in-cheek there, playing on the trope the Trump campaign said a couple weeks back, accusing Biden of possibly using performance-enhancing.
Except for the transgender community, I just don't. I'm not a big fan.
Allegations and claims at the moment. Trump made the same claims
it's just
back
weird.
in
It's weird
2020, but as you know, the Biden campaign there in this tweet, having fun with it as well here. Trump going so far as to dare Biden and the Biden camp to undergo drug testing ahead of this. So this is all part of the back and forth amongst these campaigns here. So we also have, I think, a tweet. Dan Scavino Jr., he runs Trump's social media account. He was in the comm shop at the Trump White House with this video saying Trump arrives at CNN in Atlanta.
Oh, you'll get some weird stuff.
Beautiful live now look there.
Yeah, Joseph is all hopped up on goofballs.
We also
that
have
is
this,
for sure.
Live picture as well.
You will be.
Inside
I mean, the State of the Union, he came out. Angry old man. I shit myself. And that's pretty much what we're going to get tonight. If Trump can get, I want Trump to get under his skin to make him lose his shit. And he could actually crap himself. He's done it like twice in the last month on stage. He's a stage pooper. He's so frightened on stage, the poo just comes out.
A couple of days ago, we know
I know that poo. That look of poo.
Chose his podium position.
I saw my dad poo his pants. That's the same look my daddy gave me. As his trousers filled with poop. Are those crickets for me?
So, like I said, we're about 5 minutes out.
Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to be
talking over this guy.
This is if I'm trying to like get away with some sort of crime voice.
My friend and colleague Austin West
I'm in hiding
in the Live Now newsroom
here in the Witness Protection Program.
And Austin, just to give the viewers kind of
we've got 3 minutes
the stipulations and the restrictions on
debacle.
Some of the debate content itself. There's a time frame until we can.
The best part about this is I'm able to go for bathroom breaks.
Debate.
Yeah.
So that's about 90 minutes after the debate.
Not during the debate.
And then we will be
now would
showing
be a
some
good
of the key highlights, the exchanges, the backs and the forths between Trump and Biden.
I'm just going
on that debate stage. So wanted to make sure viewers know that it won't be immediate, but we'll have it a little bit later tonight. Austin.
Yeah, so Andrew, basically what we're going to be looking ahead to in that hour is we're going to be chopping up some of, let's call it the more interesting parts of the debate. This thing is going to be lengthy. It's going to be 90 minutes long. What topics are going to be covered? That's something that everybody's going to be asking around this time. CNN itself hasn't exactly told us what the specific topics will be, but just to hit a couple of hot button issues here, border security and immigration, obviously expected to be a big one. And we'll obviously be looking out for anything that they discuss as far as abortion rights go. Obviously Trump's felony conviction, that's something that we expect Biden to talk about in that hush money case. There is also the conviction of the president's son, Hunter Biden, for possession of a gun that he...
Oh, they're probably going to do the introduction. And then they'll bring it up. Welcome, all you live streamers and Jamby vision lovers. We're about to kick off the first live streaming show of the Jamby Show. I'm your host, Jimmy Articeros, and with me always, faithfully, is my producer and son, Gunner. So, we're doing this. This is, we are in our new home in beautiful Kentucky. I'm not going to disclose where. That's private. That's so we can walk around with our privates out. We don't do that, but we could. We could very well. It's a big, big place. But it's beautiful here, you know. Blue moon of Kentucky wants to keep on shining. Remember that song by Elvis? No, you don't. But people do. Anyway, beautiful here. We're, studios are being constructed as we speak. Actually, we're the only ones building it, so if we're here, nothing's getting built right now. But it's getting built, but not right now. Anyway, got my new Trump shirt going for this debacle. The cutting of the mics, all you got to do is talk really loud, and if they cut Trump off, he can still yell his opinion out, which is great. That's going to fluster Joe. We're getting ready for kickoff. Probably going to do a little introduction for the president and the dick whacker guy who calls himself president. I don't recognize Joe Biden as the president because he doesn't do anything. Obama's been running it with the help of the Clintons and Barack's husband, Mike.
With Photo Vibrance, you can transform any photo into a mesmerizing moving image in just a few clicks. Simply drop your image into Vibrance
be good,
and
folks.
choose the effect you want to create. Then select your preferred resolution.
See what we're going to get.
Inside the editor,
right now we're getting a wonderful commercial
Click around
with
the
some
parts of your
beach
image
scenes.
you want to
Which,
remain still. Then choose
speaking
the
of the
motion
beach,
arrows to add movement to areas
don't
of your
go in the
image you want to
water at
bring to
the
life.
ocean.
It's really that simple.
Shit in there kills you.
You can also add text, images, as well as
you
special
cannot
effects
beat up a
and
shark.
sky replacements
I'm
to
just
make your images really grab
the odds
attention.
of it.
In our advanced editor, you can...
All right, so we got to watch it on.
And CNN as final.
There we are.
Pivotal moment between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their rematch for the nation's highest office. Each will make his
lips are a little off, but I can figure it out.
American people with just over 4 months until Election Day.
Oh.
Good evening. I'm Dana Bash, anchor of CNN's Inside Politics and co-anchor
of State of the Union. Dana and I will co-moderate this evening. Our job is to facilitate a
That's
debate
all right. I get the point.
between the two candidates tonight. Before we introduce them, we want to share the rules of the debate with the audience.
Here are the stupid rules. Who has rules in a debate? They should come out there with like knives and guns and
on the right,
Jamby dough karate skills.
Their positions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question.
2 minutes.
1 minute each for responses and rebuttals.
That's a quick rebuttal.
Minute for follow-up clarification.
You got to rebuttal quickly.
Is at the moderator's discretion.
Let's see. My phone's blowing up by people.
His microphone
will
be turned on, and his opponent's microphone will be turned off. Should a candidate interrupt when his microphone is muted, he will be difficult to understand for viewers at home. At the end of the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes for closing statements. There is
Old Uncle Dave's fired up.
Pre-written notes, props, or
he just rattled off something about diapers.
By accepting our
Biden wearing diapers. I think he might be. Look at him. He's already got a load in his pants. He's like, oh, squish, squish,
the 46th
squish,
president of the United States,
squish.
Joe Biden.
Look at him. He's paler. MJ.
And please welcome the 45th
Your
president
ass
of
is
the United
horrible.
States, Donald Trump.
My dog is farting on me during the debate. She knows it's a bad deal for Trump being on CNN.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin the debate.
Here we go.
And let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high.
Yeah.
Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%.
He looks all shocked.
What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president and what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic, people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. All right. The economy collapsed.
He actually said that?
Unemployment rate
Not
rose
Trump.
to
He never said that,
50%.
but Biden actually
It's
brought that
terrible.
to the debate.
So what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs.
Biden's
We
watching
brought out
conspiracy
another
theorists.
position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, but there's more to be done. There's more to
He
be
hasn't
done.
created
Working-class
dick.
people are still
It
in
was
trouble.
COVID
I come from Scranton,
rehire.
Pennsylvania. I come of a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make
Yeah,
sure
he's like,
I deal with
holy
those
liar.
and we're going to make sure that we reduce the price of housing.
He lives in the
We're gonna make
valley of
sure we have
lies
two
and
million
deceit.
new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination, what I was left with in corporate greed, is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation
You don't
where
know, Joe.
If you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, literally chaos. And so
What are you
the fact
talking
that
about?
we created, I said,
Boy,
those jobs,
okay,
we
bring
made
in
sure we're a
Kamala.
Situation where we now we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many
He's
people,
like,
to $15
what's he saying?
for a insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug.
I thought they weren't getting
from the
prompters. He looks like
next
he's
year.
reading off a
And
prompter.
The situation is and we're going to make that available to everybody,
Right?
to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price of around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you. President Trump?
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID, and when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars, and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created,
The contrast between their skin tone is just
bounce-back
remarkable.
Jobs, the bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done
Biden
a poor job, and inflation's
corpse.
killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you. President Biden?
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And you know,
everybody who is smart,
ourselves in a situation where
with a brain,
his economy, he
and a wallet,
the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover.
It's got to be hard for Trump not to speak.
Than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant. And the military, you know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have any, this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow up if I can.
Am I allowed to respond to him?
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back. And he's taking credit for bounce-back jobs. You can't do that.
Can't do that, Joe.
He inherited 9% inflation. No,
Joe looks like he's like zombing out at the podium.
That way for 14 months. And then it blew
he's
up
falling
under
asleep.
his leadership because they spent money
he's
like
doodling.
A bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations,
put
the
that
national
in your
debt
butt.
soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred the tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%.
They had to skip Joe because Joe was crapping his pants.
With much less
literally.
tax.
Look at him.
And
He's like,
companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before. And we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID.
Joe, we have our own shit.
I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it.
Because he's killing people on purpose.
A lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying.
He's all about the COVID.
He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent. All of the things he's done, we've become like a third world nation.
Good fucking
and it's
answer.
A shame. The damage he's done to our country.
Joe's dying
and
here.
I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, that $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where
1,000 trillion billion
8.2% taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers,
either one, either way,
$billion, I should say, in a 10-year period, we'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our health care system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have.
What do you say? The where?
Look. Oh God. We finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Well, right, he did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because
he went,
all these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're
He's shitting himself.
Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy
this is
Social Security.
going very well for
Mr.
Trump.
Millions of people coming in. They're trying to put them on
Look
Social
at Joe.
Security. He will wipe out
Look at him.
Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare.
He looks like he's
so
just
he right
not even there.
And it's a
right?
shame. What's happened to our country in the last
He's going to
4
freak
years
out.
is
He's
not
going to
to
have
be
a freak
believed.
out.
Foreign countries
He can't handle
with a lot of people.
You
They
can't.
cannot believe what happened
Yeah,
to the United
he really
States
looks
of
like he's
America.
his
They no
brain
longer
is
respect it.
overloaded with.
They don't like us.
Blah.
We give them everything they want,
Yeah.
and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for
The
other
amphetamines
countries,
ain't kicking
and they do
in.
nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Tana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
There's a big issue
However,
here with people.
The federal government
women
still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states.
Who's Roe?
Without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives.
I used to go to school with Wade.
Everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago,
looks like he's gonna.
Talking about how many
He's going.
Getting into other things, but every legal.
He's like a banshee.
The world,
he's like a little chupacabra ready to.
It brought back to the states. I did that.
Now
the states are working it out.
He's like concentrating so hard to even understand what he's trying to say.
Result, it was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say.
Oh, America! Come on, America!
Texas is different.
You cannot vote that cracker back
their own
in.
Decisions right now.
Look at
right
him.
Now, the states
He's
control
lost.
It. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan.
One president can talk. One president has poo in his
and
pants.
Frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for
I can't get over the
incest and the
deer in the headlights stare that he has.
Important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe. And that's this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young
That is not the same, Joe.
Including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. And the idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in.
He's going off script, Joe.
But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters. It's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border.
Yeah, Joe, you shouldn't have brought up people being raped.
Considered the most dangerous place
because you're letting in the rapists.
And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision.
I agree.
In many cases,
the states should have their own law about that.
And it's bringing it back to
if you want a different abortion law, move to a different fucking state.
The founders, if they
There's
knew
your
about
answer.
This issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and
that's why they tried to fucking whack him.
Tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
People talking about people.
President Biden, 7 states.
Joe looks angry already.
This is the same topic.
Look at him. He's
7
in
states
shock.
Have no legal restrictions on how far
What's that
into a
face?
pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I support Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. First time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about a woman's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
He's all, that's what you're going to do.
He can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down.
Joe's like, what?
So
what do you keep saying? He doesn't like that truth, does he?
The 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen. Democrat or Republican, nobody wants that to happen.
Oh, there's finger pointing now.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade not provide that. That's not the circumstance. Only white babies should not die. That's the only circumstance.
According to the Virginia governor, that is not how it is. Period.
You have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want.
Oh, they're
we
getting
don't think
heated.
That's a good thing. We think it's a
Or
radical
Joe is.
thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years.
Hey.
Constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go.
There's also years of slavery. Should we bring that back, Joe? You big dick whacker.
What's he going to do, in fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board. Conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally
He might turn
crossed
some of
the
these
southern
CNN
border under
motherfuckers.
watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening
now they're
cities
hearing
such
the
as
truth.
New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation
Do
where
you know? Did you really?
No circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers.
No, you didn't.
By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to
because
that,
you're going to threaten to fire their asses if they don't
president,
fucking go along with your whacked ass program.
Mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office.
Oh my God, he's living a life of lies.
The total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. All he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to
He decided to fuck us.
From prisons.
That was great.
People that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now. All terrorists.
Joe's
all over the world,
going to lose his shit before this debate's over. I can just see it.
From the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation.
Joe, it's called the truth.
We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is
this
great,
is a
and by
lovely
the way, who
thing.
endorsed me for president, but I won't say that. But they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it, and people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in caravans.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden.
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person coming in his administration.
What?
Kill 3 American soldiers.
Trump's like, Trump's just going to let him die on his own.
I'm not saying that.
You don't even have to say that.
But the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people. That's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating. He's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
This is a tough question.
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani. The 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world.
That's
right.
Had
a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with a bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union. Because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen
He's
before.
freaking out.
And you're reading it like these 3 incredible young girls over the last few days.
I know
One
that
of them
blank
just
stare.
Spoke to the mother, and they just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people
killing
out. We
it.
have to get them out fast.
Good job.
Because they're
Good
going to
job.
destroy our country.
That's
just
our
take
president.
a look at where they're living.
Donald J.
They're
Trump.
living in luxury hotels.
2024.
In New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He
Live
doesn't
streaming on
like
Jamby
the military
Vision.
at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved.
Thank you, Donald Trump, for just
all of the different things I
telling
approved,
the truth.
They abandoned. We had by
Look at
far
he's
the
a
highest,
sunken
and now
ship.
It's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did, and I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so
What
many
did Joe
people at our
Biden
border by
and the
allowing all of
Titanic
these
have in
people to come
common?
in.
President
And it's a
Biden?
very sad
They're
day.
both sinking
President Biden,
ships.
you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie.
Should have never been on
Every
water.
single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act.
Everything he said's a
1
lie.
million
That's your
of them now
defense.
have insurance.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And he opposed, his group opposed that. We're also in a situation.
What are we talking about, Joe?
Great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq.
Oh, here we go.
He went next to one of those burn pits. Came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World
You
War
shit
II
yourself
cemetery.
there on stage, Joe. That was fun.
He was standing with his
for the
first
French
general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence
Joe's like, I think
up,
Joe's confused now.
Like the new thing with
Joe's
the
not sure what he said about him or what he didn't say about him.
Said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
Four-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than
he's gonna get
American history.
He's going to go the insane route.
And their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
The VA could use some Trump
foreign
help.
policy. I want to begin with Russia's war
get more
against
help,
Ukraine,
Biden
which is
doesn't help
now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander-in-chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, a president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
Get him.
That when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost. But he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind, too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine. Never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me.
Joe,
I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
Yep.
President Biden?
I've never heard so much malarkey in my whole life.
Oh, you're malarkey.
The matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of
Caused brain damage.
And he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. What? They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing.
I have no idea what he's talking about. I've never heard of any headache,
got over 100,000
brain
and
damage
out
thing.
of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number 3, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what
Joe
Trump
left
did in
millions
Ukraine,
and billions of dollars in
this guy
equipment
told
and
Ukraine-
left soldiers
told Trump,
back,
"Do
and they all
whatever you
died.
want, and do whatever
That's the
you
truth
want."
about Joe
And
Biden,
that's
what he did in
exactly what Trump
Afghanistan.
did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands.
He's like making up
500,000 troops.
Stuff.
President Trump,
I
as
never
come back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along.
Exactly.
He's given $200 billion now or more
billion
to Ukraine. He's given $200
Ukraine.
billion.
Think about
That's
that.
a lot of money. I don't think
People
there's
are
ever been anything
starving.
like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled.
That's
People
right.
being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
That's right.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, and by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And
At this point, because we gave them too much money already.
For Ukraine,
so now we give them our weapons.
That's why
we're all out of money.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October,
no
Hamas
sense
attacked
whatsoever,
Israel,
Joe.
killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden,
this will be interesting.
You've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get
everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward, which has 3 stages to it. The first stage
What stage is that, Joe?
The hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is
That's a lot of ceasefires, Joe.
The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one, they're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened in Israel? We're finding the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And
not according to Netanyahu.
Organized the world against
Joe, he says you're fucking them.
A full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it stopped.
What?
We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for
you
Israel.
You did not save Israel, you lying-ass jackwagon.
Hamas
You're killing Israel.
Allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence.
I can't believe he says.
He
just said that.
Like we did Bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas. Greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. the European nations together have spent $100 billion or maybe
Joe
more than
has
that.
the craziest look on his face.
Why doesn't he call them and say you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them.
That's just like a crazy person look, huh?
The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy
I thought he was
going to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO?
I almost thought he was going to say full of shit.
NATO. The idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control.
He's like, I got it. I got this. Let me rebuke your silliness.
He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way,
Joe,
I have 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace.
MJ.
No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained.
Live stream dog farts.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said,
that's right.
And he's right about this. I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question. Would you guard us against Russia? At a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time. And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody.
They owed us money. Trump got them to pay. If you owe, you pay.
I want to ask you
or they take your shit away.
2021, after you rallied your supporters that day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated counting of electoral votes. As
got to be honest with my audience right now. If I don't
and defend, unquote, the Constitution,
go pee really fast,
what do you say to voters who believe that you violated that
urinate
oath
myself
through your actions
like
and
Joe
inaction
Biden
on January 6th and worry
doing
that
right
you'll
now?
do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border.
January 6th.
Through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world.
That's right.
All over the world, we were respected.
Respect.
And then he comes in,
RSEPTTC.
Like
you know what I'm saying, motherfuckers.
What happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including
like
weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this.
Yeah.
Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor, in writing, turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see, I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her, and she now admits that she turned
Nancy
it down.
Pelosi is a lizard creature
I don't know. She
from
can't
hell.
be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said,
Everybody
I take
on the
full
Biden
responsibility
Democratic
for January 6th.
administration are
President Biden?
Look,
evil
he
demons.
encouraged those folks to go up in the Capitol.
Evil freaking demons,
I
man.
sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours. 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well
Horse
to do something.
shizzle.
Call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons.
Joe, you can't just make up stuff because
forgive them for what they've done.
you like to.
They've been convicted. He says he
Okay,
wants to
your Uncle
commit
Boozy getting eaten by
So,
cannibals
no,
was a stretch.
He went to every single court in the nation.
And you're a
I don't
truck
know how many
driver in the
cases.
Philippines.
Scores
Puerto
of
Rican.
cases, including
Puerto
Supreme
Rican
Court.
truck driver.
They said
Raised by
no,
Puerto
no,
Ricans.
This guy is responsible for
The guy
doing
hasn't
everything that was done.
told the
He
truth
didn't do a
in
damn thing.
his whole
And these
term in
people should
office.
be in jail.
And if you look
They
at his
should
old
be
tapes,
the
people,
ones who are in
Joe
jail.
Biden as a
He wants
senator
to let them all out.
was a
And now he says that he
racist
lives
bigot
again, such a whiner that
dick
he is,
whacker
that it could be a bloodbath.
for
Thank you, President
years.
Biden. President Trump?
He's an
What
idiot.
they've done to
He
some people
plagiarized
that are so
everything he's
innocent.
ever said.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many
That's
people.
right.
When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities. You go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city.
Say San
if I didn't bring in
Francisco.
the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of
It's the shit skis.
they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that. They saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing. The Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. And they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go.
The Bidens, the Clintons, the Obamas are all
Thank you, President
corrupt.
Trump. President Biden, I want to give you
Just
a minute.
know that, people, and you'll be fine.
Is a convicted felon is the man.
Oh, here we go.
And the fact of the matter is,
there it was, the convicted felon.
Not true. The fact is that
I'm surprised it didn't come sooner.
To stop what was going on.
And guess what, Joe? Nobody cares. We like his felonies. We think he should have more felonies, like maybe assault on an old retarded president, like right now. Jamby do karate. Trump knows Jamby do karate.
That those people are patriots? Come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you
Is he asking Trump
minute,
questions?
President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34
Are you going to go
last month, you said
get
if reelected, you would,
for
quote,
dinner after
have
this,
every
Donald?
right to go after, unquote,
Joe's
your
just asking
political
random
opponents.
questions.
You just talked about members of the select
You like
committee on January
cheese?
6th going
I
to
like
jail.
cheese.
Your main political opponent is
Cheese is
standing on
good.
stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably.
Oh, look at Joe. Joe's getting mad. You don't talk about my boy that way.
Let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border. Telling the Ukrainian people that
it's really no use to lock up a Joe Biden because he shits himself and he doesn't know where he's at.
That's quid pro quo. That we're not
Quid
going to do
pro
anything.
ro. Did
we're
you
not
hear
going
that?
to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor having to do with his son. This man is a criminal.
Austin Powers
This
reference.
man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged
That's
and
right.
disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank
That's
you,
right.
President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
He just...
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous.
Joe's
It's simply a
getting
lie.
mad.
Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president.
He
is
never
wrong.
said that.
It's simply wrong. No president's ever
He
spoken
said
like that.
success.
No president.
His retribution will be success.
Number
Clean
three,
out the shit out of your ear holes
crimes
there,
you are
Joe.
still charged with. And think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties?
Don't worry about my money, motherfucker.
For doing a whole range of things.
Joe, how'd you get billions of dollars
on the night
on a
while your
six-figure
wife is pregnant?
salary?
I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
What?
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me.
Yep.
But when the public found out about these
So-
cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases
Exactly
are.
what Joe's
But
accusing
when
him
when
of,
they
Joe's
found
doing
out
to
about
him.
these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it. And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy
That's
that's
right.
after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
You
Thank
can't win,
President Trump.
Rock.
President Biden, you have said, quote,
Adrian.
Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans
Honest
are determined
Adrian.
to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
Oh, good
The more
question.
they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done.
Answer the question,
He's
Joe.
got more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of.
Joe, are you
investigations
saying you're going to set him up for more bullshit? I think that was an admittance of you're going to set him up.
Could you ever think?
Listen to that, people. If you caught it.
Do you ever hear any presidents say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile
What?
they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed.
He
Spoke to
just
the mother.
is trailing
And
off.
They asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones," he said, "I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say? Nazis coming out of fields.
Are you just
carrying
going to
torches, singing,
take Trump out of
singing
context on everything
carrying
he's ever
swastikas.
said?
We're fine people. This is the guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
He's like, Hitler, that's what he said.
President Trump.
He said
Nick,
Hitler.
Both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence,
He's all
it
confused
said
looking right now. He's like, what?
100%
It's been
exoneration on this. So he just
debunked.
keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question
Good call.
the worst president.
This is what the
in
debate's
history
all
of our
about.
country.
Can
We shouldn't
Joe
be having
Biden
a
actually
debate about it.
president?
There's nothing
And
to
obviously,
debate.
no.
He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place.
Debunked.
Every anchor has every
Debunker.
reasonable anchor
Archie
has
Debunker is what he
debunked it.
says.
And
Happened
just
to your
the other day
story.
it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a
Debunked.
nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those
Out of the forest?
carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to
Squatch.
be president at all.
Squatch.
And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated.
Squatch ate Uncle Boozy is the real story and the tragedy
here. We saw
here.
the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
And I'm going to be right back after I empty this fucking bladder. I love you guys. Stay tuned. More Jamby Vision Live podcasts, live streaming, good stuff on the debate. I'm starting to sound like Jesse the Body Ventura. Okay. Emmy. Put on the earphone. Say something. And hello, everybody. Welcome back to Jamby Vision live stream for the presidential 2024 election debate between Donald Trump and Joe. Oh, boy. Oh, Joe. Joe is getting crushed. And if everybody who's watching this, including you, Whoopi Goldberg, and Joy Blowhart, and everybody, Sonny Houston, you guys are all just terrible people. I just want to let you know. You're like the worst people on the planet. Throw George Clooney in there and Tom Hanks and Oprah, and you guys are a package deal of horribleness. But Joe's getting crushed. This actually, I was worried about it. And I want to give a shout out. That's been our realtor who sold us this house. Wonderful family. I want to give a shout out to Dave and to his family, and Misty, who also helped with the property searching. Great job. And they are great Republicans and damn fine people. And I am happy to be to call them friends. They might not even like me, really, but I call them my friend. So, but anyway, yeah, Dave's been blowing up my phone. I think, no, he's been texting me. So these are the texts. We'll read these. First he said, let's see what Joe's pupils look like. Should be a good stuttering ass whooping. So far, Uncle Dave is on point. He said he texted Trump about opening statement and added, I'm not debating the fucker until somebody changes his diaper.
Welcome back to the CNN
and we're back.
Debate live.
Thank you, Uncle Dave, for your
Let's talk
fun
about persistent challenges you both faced in your first terms, and you'd certainly face again in a second term. President Biden, while black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, black families still earn far less than white families.
What do you got to say about that, Joe?
Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're trying to provide housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporate
what?
Cocoons? To keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce...
Joe's like one of the most racist people I've ever known.
In half.
So this has got to be so hard for him to stay on point.
Make sure, because when you provide those child care protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far.
Now, Donald Trump loves the black community.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those black families...
Joe, you showed up to a random black family's house and brought chicken.
Engaged in nursing,
that was like horribly racist.
Volunteerism. If they paid their bills for 10 years and their student
and a bad assumption,
all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
No, he isn't.
He caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black
He's blaming
families
himself
and
now.
Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live.
That's something everybody feels, even those commentators on CNN.
A country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam and all this
Green New Scam. Yes, it is.
He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy. Absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time.
A jackass,
there were no
Joe
jobs.
Biden.
We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals.
Thousands and millions.
Including minority communities. We
made
big
sure
jump,
Joe.
They have health insurance. We have covered, the ACA has increased. I made sure that there are $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times.
No, he wants everybody to flourish, Joe.
They're going to try again if they
That's some scam or get rid of all your gas appliances.
We put more police on the street than any administration has.
No, you haven't.
He wants to cut the cops.
You've defunded everybody.
Equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on. But in inflation, he caused...
And you know none of it. You know nothing that's going on.
Malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history.
Climate
and communities
crisis.
Across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires,
it gets hot,
hurricanes, and rising sea levels.
And then it gets cold.
Former President Trump, you've vowed to end
then
your
it rains.
Climate initiatives, but will
Sometimes
you
it
take
snows.
any action as president to slow the
then
climate
it gets hot
crisis?
again.
Well, let me just go back to what he said about
the fuck.
Police, how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump.
Yes,
Almost
they are.
Every police group.
And
what he's done
I know
to the
this
black
for a fact.
Population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that.
Yeah.
Super predators was his name. And he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening.
The past just came and bit you in your poopy butt.
And for the historically black colleges and universities where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs. And it's already started. And you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
It's a
38 seconds left.
fucking train wreck.
Trump, will you
and
take
Biden
any
created
action
it.
as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air. And we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever.
We had H2O.
We were using
I like that.
all forms of energy, all forms.
Yeah, our water's
everything.
crap now.
And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea that anything he said is true. I passed
you can't just call him a liar on everything, Joe.
Climate change
with no defense to back it up.
In history, we find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities.
Please say you were a professor at one of them.
They don't have the kind of contributors that they have to
build
these laboratories and the like. Any black
laboratories and all like.
College are doing any white student can do.
What's the laboratories and all like?
But now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water. He hadn't done a damn thing. Man.
He's going to cry or something. Cleanest water?
The Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change.
Shut up.
And he didn't do a damn thing
Listen,
about it.
fans,
do all that I've done.
Climate change is a hoax. Global warming is bullshit.
Cost us
do not fall into that.
And China nothing,
trap.
And Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
I ain't going to see no Social Security.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence. We're not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything if we're not able to? The United States can't get its pollution under control. One of the largest polluters in the world.
Nobody understands what you're actually saying, Joe.
Progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant
by getting
progress.
rid of everything that works.
We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people to learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps.
Well, now that we're back in the
1840s,
climate's great.
The cause of pollution, but the idea
it's the same
that
shit.
He claims that he has the biggest heart up here, and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate. I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
so every day,
I think Donald's turning the CNN hosts around.
For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social
Just one,
Security
Joe.
solvent?
Yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under
That's all he cares about.
pays 6%
Joe, do you know that you are the very wealthy?
Of their paycheck every single time they
now
get a paycheck,
that you've stolen all that money?
When they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I'm proposing that everybody, they pay,
what?
The millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody.
Holy jambalaya Jamby speech.
Began to pay their fair share.
How do you follow that?
Increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent. But the biggest thing will do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanted to cut Social Security and Medicare both times.
I ain't dependent on no Social Security ever from anybody.
The House Republican caucus
that got fucked up years ago.
Supports is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way,
then stop poisoning them with all the fucking pills and prescriptions and horrible food.
As I said, you're in a circumstance
jackwagon.
400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where we talk about education for...
Like the one thing he really studied up on was...
the amount of money for Pell Grants, another $8,000.
Social Security.
Under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years.
Hit him, Big D.
I've never seen anybody lie like this guy.
Yeah.
He lies. I've never seen it. He could look you in the face. About so many other things, too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace.
He
lies.
But
Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels.
True.
He doesn't know what he's doing. And
True.
It's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden.
Oh, we angry.
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of. I told you before.
Oh, he's going to snap.
When I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it, number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where
it's like it caught up
all these millions and millions, the way he talks about
20 minutes ago, that
illegal
was...
aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world. The reason why
because of the illegal aliens taking our jobs, Joe?
We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureats he talked about.
Well, I can have a massive family if I keep adopting children. What the fuck does that mean, Joe?
We're elected to have a recession, and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States.
What? Who are these scholars?
Thank you so much. Let's turn
how
to
much
the cost
did you
of
pay them?
Child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both
Yeah.
you and President Biden have tried to address this issue. But the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent.
That's 5 times
in your
11.
second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
That's a lot of cash.
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put them there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
Yep.
He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody?
You fucked their own military boys over there, Joe.
That's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world. Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions?
Yeah, like Mayorkas.
That allowed our country to be
How about
destroyed?
fire Mayorkas?
Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate.
Thank
you.
This
shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country.
Yes.
Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just
open your eyes, people.
If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even
a chance in hell
of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is.
Nope.
He is the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump.
It's Trump or it's over, people.
The most admired country in the world. We're the United States.
Not anymore.
There's nothing.
You fucked it all up, Joe.
We have the finest military in the history of the world.
Not anymore. You put a bunch
of history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to
weak ass people in there.
Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number.
You don't know, Joe.
Presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history. Best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care. He did for virtually nothing to child care.
Joe.
We should significantly increase
going
the
on
child
false
care
numbers.
tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women.
Who are these people who voted this?
Parents to be able to go back
Joe,
to work.
do you have names? No, you don't.
To have
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable, if you want to take your minute.
Just so you understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you, and they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times.
Ronnie Reagan.
He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this
That's
before.
Right.
All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by
Amen
far,
on that.
Everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Amen on that.
The fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased them.
You're half dead.
He will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming in the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that are very important. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. The middle class has been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion.
Joe, you better have
in the next
facts
10 years,
to back that, because he's about to shred you
the largest deficit of any
on your made-up
American
stories.
history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made
Joe's just smiling. He's just like
any progress with China.
He's just like, okay,
we have the
Joe.
lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden. Thank you, President Biden.
Yeah, Biden, shut up.
An epidemic
Shut the
impacting
fuck
millions
up.
of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Stop the migrants.
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. So we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst
These are all facts, people.
China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
Thank you.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along.
I like how I called him Jake.
2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before.
Jake, let me tell you something.
In every way.
Jakey.
And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot. And we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you, President Biden.
Fentanyl and the byproducts went down for a while.
What?
And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl.
Joe, go to San Francisco.
That roll over everything that comes across the border.
Go to San Francisco,
and it
Joe.
costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together. This bipartisan
deal.
Go
to Portland.
More fentanyl machines.
Go to L.A.
Be able to detect drugs. More numbers.
Go to Chicago.
Of agents. More numbers of all the people.
Walk around the streets, Joe.
And when we had that
Tell me what you see.
He called his.
Go to Oakland.
And said, "Don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically."
All places you really can't go to anymore unless you want to die or become a fentanyl zombie.
We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have
Mexico is run by the cartel. They ain't working with Dick.
We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here.
Yep.
We had so many things that we had done. Hard negotiations with Mexico.
To keep the drugs out.
Nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter. I think a good guy. And he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world?
Yeah, how is this possible, Joe?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized.
Being retarded?
The youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what
he golfs. He doesn't have to struggle with a lawn chair.
as I said, 50 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought off a lot of people. The whole idea of computer chips, we used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and then bring home a product. So I went to
Joe just makes stuff up on the fly, doesn't he? And then there's a dog, and the dog's name was Ralph.
Those fabs, they call them.
And Ralph
to build these chips,
was a cannibal.
Those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans.
All right, now, Mr. President, the real Mr. President.
Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president
Joe, stop talking. Stop talking, Joe.
With the envy of the world, name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America.
China's president, Putin,
we're the most progressive country
Xinjiang in Korea,
country in the world.
because they don't have any problems.
Everybody trusts us, all of our allies. And our
They'd probably not want to trade places right now. Because you destroyed America, Joe.
Putin, etc. They don't want
Did he say love letters to Putin?
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you
he
will
handles
be 82
business, Joe.
at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none.
Here we
I'd like
go.
to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions, he couldn't do it. I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year.
Joe looks crazy.
And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior.
That's
2
right.
regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter.
That's right.
But I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them.
Yeah.
Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
Yeah.
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds.
What?
Well, he said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway.
Are you really nitpicking his dimensions, Joe?
Take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. And by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
Oh, shit.
It was a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap. Yeah. 8.
No, he wasn't.
But I had, you know how many...
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to turn
We're in a golf war now.
to a specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I have to say that of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statements that I made in the Roosevelt, you would see it's the most strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to these speech I made, in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear.
Yes, she did.
But the answer is,
that's on Pelosi.
If the election is
fair,
Joe. Free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president.
He ain't there for the money, people. He's there to just help us.
Make America great
the other
again.
guy's not going to help us.
We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III
we are close.
than anybody can imagine.
Yep.
We are very, very close
Scary
to World
close.
War III, and he's driving us there.
He's just going to do it
Kim Jong-un
on his way out.
President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him.
They do not.
They have nothing going with this gentleman.
You can't
and he's going to
fear
drive us into
an
World
idiot.
War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all, and required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with what job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful
They
nation.
would just to try to fix this really awesome country that you fucked up.
Of anything, and they step up when they're needed.
Other leaders think it's sad what we've become because of you, Joe Biden.
Because our own safety is at stake. And again,
that's what he's trying to tell you.
Have a war. Just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv. Make sure they move on.
Eve? Is it Kyiv or Eve?
And other places along that border.
Who's Eve?
Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish.
He might, but the people ain't.
Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump. Nothing.
That's
he knew
right.
Not to do it. He's not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me.
Obama likes
balls. He's going to take
balls.
the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions.
That's
Russia
right.
would have never attacked.
Stupid. He's a big, stupid,
will you
stupid
accept
head.
the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair, legal, and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But
yeah.
I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else.
Doesn't have to do it, folks. He wants to do it to save us.
No indictments.
Think about that.
No political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win.
That's
but
pretty
unfortunately,
fucking cool.
it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Yeah, but
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over.
Because I'm going to cheat. I'm a cheater.
You lost the first time.
They call him a whiner.
You appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America.
Because you bought the courts, Joe.
Any of your claims had any merit.
It's the old mafia
state
style.
or local. None. But you continue
You
to
filled
promote
pockets.
this lie.
Make them in the dirty
Somehow
pockets.
There's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner.
Oh, called him a whiner twice.
You can't stand
what
loss.
kind of president is that? It's
we'll
not.
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate live from Georgia.
Well, everybody, what do you guys get so far out of this debate? If you were on the fence of who you wanted to choose, and you visually have watched this debate as I have, and cognitively have seen that man, Joe Biden, try to function at a podium. Now, some of you have had old people in your family. Obviously, people get old. Grandmas, grandpas, parents, depending on your age. And you've seen the mental capacity diminish over time. It's not everybody. Some people are lucky and their parents are sharp as a tack, bunch of Dick Van Dyke motherfuckers till they're 99 years old. It's rare, but it happens. I wasn't so lucky. My family's just cursed with Alzheimer's. Shit. But I've seen it. And I swear with everything I am on God that I've seen that look in Joe Biden's face. I've seen those mannerisms. I've seen how he carries himself. And that is exactly the way someone with dementia or precursor Alzheimer's carries themselves. He has shit himself on stage. I've seen it. He did it in France last week. When he stopped and squatted halfway, that was him filling up his diapers with crap. I've seen it 100 times a foot away from me. It's the look, it's the glaze, it's the almost angry, but smiling it off because they're confused. Joe is completely gone. He's got enough faculty in him with enough coaching to push him to even get up there. But that's Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the biggest biatch ever because she has it's almost elderly. It is elderly abuse to push him out there. He should be sitting in a room, relaxed in his sweats, watching movies and enjoying his family. He should be totally Bruce Willis in it. It's at home with family, being loved, not being the leader of the greatest nation on earth. So, the only way Democrats win this is if they cheat or do something drastic, which hasn't happened in a long time, but it's happened before. We all remember the Kennedys, which was horrible. And the thing about the Kennedys was they were trying to clean up the corruption. And look what happened to both of them. And here's Trump again, trying to clean up the corruption. And look what they've done to him. They've hammered him from the get-go. One of my favorite words, from the get-go. And it is complete bullshit. And it's destroyed our country. We are on the brink of World War III. And we're back. We're back live. Last part of the debate, I believe.
It is now time for the candidates to deliver their closing statements as predetermined by a coin toss. We're going to begin with you, President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term.
False.
We found ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience, or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes.
Nobody fucking cares about the taxes right now, Joe. Close the fucking borders and save our country.
This guy has increased your taxes.
Fuck your taxes.
Because of the deficit, number one. He's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more.
I'm impressed that CNN actually is letting Trump have the last word.
I did. When, for example,
he
wants to get away with it.
Because now he can just rebuke all this bullshit.
For the ability
if he can actually get it out.
Us to be able to negotiate drug prices with a big pharma. We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000.
You don't know, Joe.
Senior, no matter what how much.
Joe be pulling numbers out of his ass, like 15, 30, 10, 9er.
by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along. It's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits people have.
Remember, everybody who's listening,
something about what we're doing.
He has done nothing to help America. His first 4 years, nothing.
People across the country.
His next 4 years will be even worse.
Bring down inflation and give people a break.
Let's go.
Thank you, President
Here we
Biden.
go.
President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Like so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything.
Nope.
He doesn't do. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from the
he's
medical
regurgitating
right where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible. Choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. That's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA.
That's right.
So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Yeah.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
I think that's where Joe goes and falls asleep for the next day or two. All right, everybody. So that was the first live stream of the presidential debate, first one between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. What I take from it is what I thought. I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would because I thought it was going to be so lopsided, but CNN kind of let him go without their bullshit that they normally do, because I think and I hope that this actually woke up a lot of people who watch that bullshit news station. I don't even call them news, but who watch that and have been getting one fucking side. Finally, everybody gets to see them side by side, who has a brain and who is just gone. And it's so evident. If you didn't see it, if you're still, I don't know, then you have issues yourself and you should probably go get checked, because it's black and white, man. It is so clear who the real president is and should be, and who the debacle and the crap ass dickwhacker is. Do not vote for Joe Biden or we are fucked. We'll have World War III. If we don't already have it, I mean, we still got till November. He can screw things up that bad. Stay close. Attention. Always know what's going on. Listen to Donald Trump. He's going to get us there. Please vote for him. Thank you for the Jamby love. We're going to be creating this awesome new studio in our new home in Kentucky, and we're so excited to be here. Let's blow Kentucky up. Come on, people. I'm going to go down to the Republican Trump party station thingy. What do they call it? Headquarters tomorrow. and introduce myself. So we're going to incorporate some Jamby vision into the headquarters down there in town. And we're probably going to try to get some of those people on this show to talk real Republicans, good shit. So everybody, love you, love each other, love your family. God bless you. Trust in Trump, trust in God. We're out.